Hello, welcome to Grandpa and the Goddess of Poetry. Today I'm going to read a rather gloomy poem by Wilfred Owen, one of the World War I poets who became famous, a group of poets who pretty much all of them had fought in World War I in the terrible conditions of trench warfare in northern France. And they were very much traumatized by their experiences. For them, war was not a glorious event, but something to be suffered and stopped if it could possibly, that could possibly happen. Wilfred Owen found himself in a mental hospital, hospitalized from the trenches, suffering from what was called shell shock in those days. We now call it PTSD. A lot of soldiers then and indeed now suffer from that condition, which symptoms include extreme anxiety, restlessness, lack of sleep, and terrible recall of traumatic events. In the hospital he was in, he met another great poet, Siegfried Sassoon, and they, I imagine, must have helped each other and found the writing of the poetry that they did in that hospital therapeutic, because poetry can have a healing effect. Sometimes experiences are too painful to simply talk about, but can be expressed in poetry. I think this poem that I'm going to read is perhaps part of that therapeutic process that Owen and others were experiencing. I hope it helped him a bit. I'm going to read this poem now. It's called The Show. It's imagining himself looking down on the terrible scene of devastation caused by trench warfare. Here we are. My soul looked down from a vague height with death, as unremembering how I rose or why, and saw a sad land, weak with sweats of dearth, grey cratered like the moon with hollow woe, and fitted with great pox and scabs of plaques. Across its beard, that horror of harsh wire, there moved thin caterpillars, slowly uncoiled. It seemed they pushed themselves to be as plugs or ditches where they writhed and shriveled, killed. By them had slimy paths been trailed and scraped round myriad warts that might be little hills. From gloom's last dregs these long-strung creatures crept and vanished out of dawn down hidden holes. And smell came up from those foul openings, as out of mouths or deep wounds deepening. On dithering feet upgathered more and more brown strings toward strings of grey, with bristling spines, all migrants from green fields intent on mire. Those that were grey, of more abundant spawns, ramped on the rest and ate them and were eaten. I saw their bitten backs curve, loop and straighten. I watched those agonies curl, lift and flatten. Whereat, in terror what that sight might mean, I reeled and shivered earthward like a feather. And death fell with me like a deepening moan. And he, picking a manner of worm which half had hid its bruises in the earth, but crawled no further, showed me its feet, the feet of many men, and the fresh severed head of it, my head. That is a horrific series of images of a man looking down perhaps on himself, his activities in trench warfare, caterpillars of grey and brown men fighting each other seen from a distance, the horrific brutality of trench warfare, and that awful last line, the fresh severed head of it, my head. Very prophetic. Wilfred Owen recovered enough in hospital to be sent back to the front, to the Flanders fields, where he was killed by a bullet before the end of the war in 1918. Mankind never seems to learn, does it, the futility of war. Thanks for listening today.